Picture this. Julius Caesar stands before the Senate. But instead of declaring, "The die is cast," he pushes a button on a strange humming box and says, "Ready in 2 minutes." Sound absurd? Well, let me tell you how a simple microwave oven could have completely rewritten the history of the ancient world's greatest empire. When we think about the fall of Rome, we usually picture barbarians at the gates, corruption in the Senate, or an economic collapse. But what if I told you that a simple piece of kitchen technology could have prevented all that chaos? What if the microwave was the secret weapon that allowed Rome to rule the world for another 1,000 years? A revolution in military logistics. Let's start with the most obvious one. An army marches on its stomach. Roman legions were famous for their iron discipline, but even the toughest soldiers were vulnerable when it came to their food supply. Legionaries typically carried hard biscuits, salted meat, and beans, food that could last for weeks but was tasteless and not very nutritious. Now imagine a legion equipped with portable microwaves, powered by, let's say, some mystical crystal or steam energy. Suddenly, every centurion could heat up a hot meal for his soldiers in minutes. Troop morale would skyrocket. A hot meal on a cold night in Gaul or during the siege of Jerusalem is not just comfort. It's a psychological advantage. But even more important is the speed. Roman armies spent hours building fires, cooking, and waiting for their food. With microwaves, legions could save precious time on the march. Imagine how that would have changed Caesar's blitzkrieg tactics in Gaul. His troops could move even faster, striking where the enemy least expected them. Culinary diplomacy. Now let's jump to the luxurious villas of the Roman elite. Wealthy patricians and senators were famous for their banquets. These feasts weren't just about food. They were a display of power and wealth. Guests would recline on couches, enjoying exotic dishes prepared by dozens of slaves. A microwave would have turned this system upside down. Suddenly, complex dishes could be prepared almost instantly. Imagine the surprise of a Gallic chieftain or a Germanic king when a Roman diplomat served them a hot meal from their homeland in just 2 minutes. To them, it would look like magic. Mark Antony, known for his love of luxury, could have impressed Cleopatra not with a golden barge, but with a dinner cooked in minutes, right before her eyes. The Egyptian queen, accustomed to royal feasts that took hours to prepare, would have been captivated by this Roman magic. Perhaps the love story of Antony and Cleopatra would have had a very different ending. An economic revolution, but the real revolution would have been economic. The Roman Empire relied on trade, and a huge amount of goods spoiled along the way. Grain got damp, meat rotted, and dairy went sour long before a caravan reached its destination. Microwaves would have changed the very principles of food preservation. Quick reheating would make it possible to eat food that was previously considered spoiled. Merchants could carry a wider variety of goods, knowing they could always whip up a fresh meal. Picture a caravan on the Silk Road. Instead of carrying heavy supplies of ready-to-eat food, traders could carry lightweight, dried goods and simply rehydrate and heat them on the go. This would have dramatically increased cargo capacity and made trade far more profitable. Religious and social upheaval. Now think about the religious impact. Roman priests performed complex rituals where fire played a crucial role. The Vestal Virgins maintained the sacred flame, and priests made sacrifices on altars. The microwave would have challenged the very foundation of Roman religion. What is a sacred fire when you can cook without any fire at all? Some priests would have declared microwaves a demonic invention, others a gift from the gods. A religious war would have erupted between traditionalists and innovators. Emperor Nero, known for his love of innovation and scandal, would have surely become the first patron of microwave magic. Instead of burning Rome, maybe he would have thrown a grand spectacle, cooking food for the entire city using hundreds of microwaves set up in the forum. A new social structure. Roman society was built on slavery, and most household slaves were tasked with cooking. Microwaves could have radically changed this. Why keep a dozen slaves in the kitchen when one person with a microwave could feed an entire family? This would have led to a massive liberation of labor. Slaves who once worked in kitchens could be put to more productive tasks: construction, crafts, or trade. The empire's economy would have received a powerful boost. But this would also spark social unrest. Cook slaves, suddenly made redundant, might have risen up in rebellion. Imagine a first-century Spartacus, but instead of gladiators, his army is made up of jobless kitchen slaves, armed with microwaves. A technological leap. The most interesting part is how Roman engineers would have improved the microwave. The Romans were brilliant engineers. They built aqueducts, roads, and the Colosseum. If they got their hands on microwave technology, they would have undoubtedly perfected it. Perhaps they would have built giant microwaves for army camps, capable of heating food for an entire legion at once, or portable, shield-sized versions for legionaries to carry on campaigns, or maybe luxurious marble microwaves for patrician villas, decorated with gold and precious stones. Roman scholars, like Pliny the Elder, would have written treatises on the magical art of flameless cooking. They would have studied the principles of microwaves, perhaps linking them to the movement of the planets or the influence of the gods. Military innovations. But the Romans wouldn't have stopped at food. These pragmatic conquerors would have quickly found a military use for microwave technology. Imagine siege microwaves, massive devices capable of heating an enemy city's metal gates red-hot in minutes. During the siege of Masada, the Romans could have used microwaves to heat the defenders' weapons right in their hands, forcing them to drop their swords and spears. It would have been a psychological weapon of incredible power. The enemy would think the Romans wielded the magic of the gods themselves. The impact on great minds. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, would surely have written about how microwaves changed his perspective on the nature of time and energy. His meditations might have included lines like, "Just as food can be cooked without fire, so too can the soul be purified without suffering." Cicero would have delivered fiery speeches in the Senate, arguing that microwaves were a threat to traditional Roman values. Will we, the descendants of Romulus, prepare our meals like some barbarians, with no respect for the sacred fire of our ancestors? And Suetonius would have written biographies of the emperors, including chapters on how each of them used their microwaves. Caligula, known for his madness, probably would have appointed his microwave to the Senate, demanding it receive the same honors as his horse, Incitatus, an architectural revolution. Roman architecture would have changed, too. There would be no need for huge kitchens with multiple hearths. Homes would become more compact, and the freed-up space could be used for libraries, workshops, or private studies. Perhaps entire districts of microwave thermopolia, ancient fast food joints, would have appeared, where travelers could quickly heat their meals. Pompeii would have become an even more cosmopolitan city, with a network of eateries offering instant food from all over the Mediterranean. The fall of the empire. An alternate version. But here's the paradox. Perhaps microwaves would have hastened the fall of Rome. The technology would have made life so comfortable that Romans would have become lazy and soft. Why learn to cook when you have a microwave? Why develop skills when technology solves every problem? The barbarians, with no access to microwaves, would have remained tough and hardened. When they finally invaded the empire, they would have faced a decadent Roman population that couldn't even start a fire without a machine. Perhaps the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire didn't fall to a barbarian's sword, but to starvation. When his microwave broke, he simply didn't know how to cook for himself. Epilogue. The legacy of a microwave Rome. In this alternate history, future archaeologists digging through the ruins of Rome would find not just amphorae and mosaics, but ancient microwaves. Scientists would puzzle over the purpose of these strange metal boxes with mysterious buttons and symbols. Perhaps medieval alchemists would have believed the microwaves they found were the philosopher's stone, capable of turning cold food hot without fire. They would have spent years trying to unlock the secrets of Roman magic, never realizing they were holding a common kitchen appliance. Or maybe Roman microwave technology would have become so advanced that it outlived the empire itself. The Byzantines would have inherited this knowledge and used it to create Greek fire, the legendary weapon that could burn even on water. Just imagine, not naphtha and saltpeter, but concentrated microwaves, turning enemy ships into a blazing inferno. History shows us that the most unlikely inventions can change the course of civilization in the most unexpected ways. And who knows? Maybe in a parallel universe, Roman legionaries are still marching across Europe, heating their lunch in portable microwaves powered by the volcanic energy of Mount Vesuvius. After all, if Rome could gift the world law, architecture, and Latin, why not the microwave revolution? An empire that learns to cook quickly might just rule forever.